Hello everyone, we're going to take a quick little walkthrough here of the newest design here called Inlay. Just to do an overview of what we have layer wise in here. It's pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with my designs, you're going to find this one pretty similar to use. But let's take a look at what we have here. So we'll just run through the layer stack here. We've got our color grading layers. Again, those are grouped. There's a couple different options. Those can be turned on and off. You could change opacities to taste, to whatever style that you like there. We've got some facial highlight layers. We can talk about those in a second. We've got a text box here. So it's basically a group. If we expand this, you'll see all of the fields for each of the text items are in here. And the way this is laid out is everything will kind of type the way it's supposed to be and keep this alignment if you like this alignment. So for instance, if we put a new first name in here, let's say we did something a little longer like this and apply it. Well, if we wanted to size that maybe to match the 2023, again, it's going to be a simple resize. So what I would do is just hold shift, grab from this outside edge. I could bring that down, something similar to match. And the way that this works is that on the group is where our layer effects are being applied, so that everything inside the group is getting that effect. So everything will kind of stay relatively the same with stroke lines and everything like that. And so if you go with something with, let's do a longer last name here. So something that takes up a little bit more room. Again, you could resize this, Command or Control T. Now we'll drag from this outside corner. And let's say we wanted to leave this a little bit long. If you want to recenter everything as a group, what you want to do is not select the text, but actually come up here and make sure the group is selected. And then you can hit Command or Control A. That will select the canvas, grab the Move tool, and then just hit the Center button. And what that will do is center all of that text as a group. So it's a real easy way to get that centered up, as names and fonts and things like that change to create different widths. That is a very easy way to keep that centered. If we keep going down, here's just a darkening layer. That can be turned on or off as you like. And then we got a couple different subject groups. We're going to talk about those in just a second, but let's pop on down below that. We have two more groups below here, one called lower graphics and one called upper graphics. So right now the upper graphics is turned on by default, and that just means that the graphics show up in the upper part of the canvas here. So if we turn this one off and turn this one on, now you can see we have the graphics in the lower part of the canvas. So let's turn our upper graphics back on. Let's expand this group out, and you're going to see some layers in here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll scroll down and we'll see some different background options in here. So for instance, the turf is turned on now. There's also a concrete option, and there's some color changing applied to that. So you could change the colors here, which is again a hue saturation adjustment layer. So you could change, your hue here, how saturated it is, how bright it is, to match your team, school colors, things like that. There's a dirt option in here. There's the turf, of course. There's a court option. Here is a metal option. Again, it also has some color change applied, hue saturation. We have this old wood option. I think it looks pretty cool for a variety of different things. Here's like a matte, like a wrestling mat type of texture. Again, color changing applied to that. And here's a sparkly one that's great for dance and cheer and things, again, with color change applied to that as well. Okay, so let's turn our turf back on. So that's the background options. You'll see there's a little shadow ring, which creates this inner ring inside of here that shadows this kind of sport shape. And then under this folder here called Sport Objects, this is our different pre-built-in graphics for the sports. So we have baseball, basketball, soccer, softball, tennis, volleyball, and then I have this solid one in here. And this solid one would be good if you wanted to overlay, say perhaps a school logo or something like that. Let me see if I can find one here quickly to drop in. Let's check this one out. And it's loading. And so let's just say okay. And so if you have a logo, let's just make this a little bit larger. And then what I'm going to do is drag this up above our object layer. And for something like this, if it's a PNG and it's transparent, of course that's going to be a lot easier to work with. Something like this on a white background, depending on what color you're going to make the object. Again, you can see there's some color change on here. Right now it's just set to look like black. If we wanted to add some color to this, we could brighten this up. Now let's turn our logo layer back on. We could play with blend modes here. So if we wanted to do a dark logo, we could do a multiply. Now if we wanted that to be lighter, what I would do is invert this logo, so Command or Control I, so that becomes brighter, and then use screen. And now we can do a brighter logo. You could also do Command or Control U to do a hue saturation adjustment if you wanted to play with the opacity, and you could colorize this. And so that's just a quick little way. If it's on a white background, you want to make a real simple logo application, that's really good for that in there. Okay, so let's just turn our soccer back on for now. So there's some of those options. Let's jump up real quick and look at the subject. So here's our subject groups. So if we turn a subject on, we see we have two groups here, the upper graphics and the lower graphics. So again, our upper graphics are turned on. So I'm using the group for the upper subject, or the upper graphics subject, which is going to fade him right out behind the text right here. So nice and simply just drop and place and go. If we wanted to use the lower graphics option, if we turn this on, you could still use this group if you like the subject like this. If we expand this, you're going to see those same background options are in there. The only thing that isn't in there are those sport objects, just because they're completely behind the subject here. Those could always be copied up if you wanted them there for any reason. But with the lower graphics on, I've put this alternate group if you would like to use it. And what it does is it just kind of sticks the subject down inside of this circle cutout here. And you can see that's just done with a mask right here. So you just drop your subject into this group and move them around, and they kind of just tuck down into that hole right there. So it's just a different look and a different style there if you wanted to change that up. So basically that is what we have going on here. You can see nothing too complicated. Let's just reset this. It's all fairly simple to use. The only other last thing is the background color, which is just a solid color layer. And what you're going to see is that's going to control this background color showing up in here. And if this was the lower graphics option, again, that's going to be that background color in this circle here. So, hopefully you'll find this isn't too complicated to use, that it's very quick. And I hope that it is very beneficial and useful for you. And just the last point out, facial highlight layer here. Again, I put this in almost all the templates. What this is, this will come by default with this layer blacked out, so we'll reset this. And you'll see some instructions. Paint on mask with white as needed. So in other words, we're going to make sure the mask is selected. So we don't want the layer selected with the box here. We want the box around the mask. And then we can just take a white brush and we can paint in some of those facial highlights if you want to just give those a little boost there. So we have one of those preset for lighter skin, one for darker skin, and that's what those are about. So, hope this helps. I'll give you a quick overview. Hope you get a ton of use out of this and you have a lot of success with it, and good luck.